Thank you. My name's Kevin. I'm an alcoholic. So we're going to start with the prayer, and you just have to repeat after me. Okay, so God, please enable me to set aside.
God, please enable me to set aside
Everything I think I know.
everything I think
For an open mind.
for an open mind
And new experience.
and a new experience.
With step one.
With step one.
Okay. So it kind of puts me in that frame of mind. I do the set aside prayer whenever I was doing the steps with my sponsor, and I do that with my sponsees. My name's Kevin. I'm an alcoholic. For me, it's my experience, and what the book tells me is like all 12 steps are super important, right? But step one, you hear, is the only one you have to do perfect, right? And because if I can't see that I'm powerless over alcohol and that my life is unmanageable and that I have the obsession and I have the allergy of the body, then I'm not going to get help. I'm not, I'm not going to do what it takes. And that's my experience, not my opinion, even my personal experience. So how I got here, I had been around AA for a long time. I think I got sent to AA the first time in high school for an incident that I caused. It wasn't, in order to get my diploma, I had to go to get a certain amount of AA meetings and go see a counselor, and I was not allowed to go to grad night. Anyways, many ins and outs, but really, I really never wanted to stop drinking. Like, I just wanted the bad things that always happen to kind of stop. And so I wasn't able to successfully do that. It's kind of like the bad stuff that was happening is connected to the alcohol bone, and there wasn't really any pulling it apart, right? And I had a lot of things connected to that bone too. Like, once I drank, you didn't know what was going to happen. So in my final weeks, drugs are a part of my story. I'm not going to talk much about it, but I would sell drugs and go to hotel. I mean, my whole get down was to have a customer who worked at a car rental, customer that worked at a hotel. And so then I would, use, so that was my thing. I'd get car rental and I'd go to hotel, and every night I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. So I was with some people, wasn't going like I planned. And I just went to a friend's house who said that, hey, you can stay here, but I don't want you doing any of that. He wasn't sober per se. I mean, he wasn't in the program. And I wasn't really even able to do that. And so I had someone take me to the homeless shelter, which is where I did not want to go. But I knew if I went to the next place that I would continue doing what I would do. So there, I would do, something different maybe. I woke up the next morning. I was in the park because they throw you out at like 6 a.m. And my mom called me, which my mom never calls me, and I was like, and she was super sick, couldn't get out of bed, all this stuff. Fast forward, I broke into her house, and which I've probably done before. And the ambulance came, and I had a friend of mine there, and she's getting in the back of the ambulance, and she's got her keys in her purse. The house is still unlocked. She's going to the hospital, and she's looking at her keys in her purse, and I could see in her eyes was like, I would rather throw these in the garbage or out on the street right there than hand these to you. And she said, well, I guess you're going to have to lock the gun and follow me to the hospital. And the guy that was with me, who's in the program, said, oh, no, we're not doing that. And he said, you're going to take the keys and your purse. We'll just lock the door from the in, and close it. And I honestly think that is where God stepped into my life right there. Like that, I would like to say nothing would have happened, but that's not my MO. And so when I came into the program, I was absolutely positive it wasn't going to work, and I didn't want to do it. And it was very uncomfortable. but I was so desperate, I didn't care. I was willing to live, just do what they said and just live that way in a sober living for the rest of my life. I was never going back to where I came from. Had some weird stuff happen at the hospital when my mom was there, and it was just like crazy. You know, here I'm thinking I saved her life, and most of the people there are looking at me like, what a piece of shit, you know, and, you know, because it's all about me. So I met a sponsor, and he wanted to go through the steps, and he wanted to read me the book. And that's how he does it, and that's how I do it. And so it sounds crazy, but some people start on page 1. And, you know, my sponsor started in like right here, and then he told me what the picture used to be here, and we draw the picture, and then we went through the, you know, the forward and all this stuff. But really, the doctor's opinion is really, you know, and what he did was he described to me what I had been feeling all along, but had no words to put to and no way of describing that. I just thought I was weak and a piece of shit and a terrible person, but I knew I absolutely couldn't not drink, you know, and there was no human power, right? There was absolutely no human power because, you know, I've been to the doctor, you're going to die. You're going to go to prison. You know, I'm leaving you. You're going to lose this job. You're going to be on the street again. None of that stuff mattered to me because I had an obsession. And if you want to know what an obsession is, it's something, it's a thought that is so powerful that it crowds out every other thought. So you may have children, you may, you know, be going to prison, or you may lose a job, or you may just be like, I can't feel this pain anymore. I still have everything, you know, and so I'm going to get to why that matters in a little bit, but I can't do this anymore. And so he took me through the doctor's opinion, and he had me diagnose myself. He didn't tell me I was an alcoholic. He said, let's find out. And so we went through the book, and he turned the statements into questions. Did you drink like this? Did this happen to you? Were you able to stop when you had a few drinks? Like, he just asked me all these questions, and it was like, you know, it was obvious. That was my experience. And so, you know, you've got the first parts, like powerless over alcohol. By the way, I don't think that I have regained power over alcohol. I ask God to keep me sober every day, because in my mind, the way I feel is like God has certain things he wants me to do. And if I do those things, he takes care of alcohol, and I don't have to worry. And so that's why I think I'm at the end of the day. So I don't think I've ever gotten my power back. And so he described to me like, hey, you know, you've got this obsession of the mind. So every time you take a drink, you know, you can't control the amount that you're going to take, right? Great. Okay. You know, it doesn't matter if I count the caps in my pocket, you know, the beer caps, like, it doesn't matter if, you know, I'm with my family and I cannot make a fool of myself this time. It's my mom's birthday, whatever, you know, and I can't control the amount I'm going to drink. I have no control. I'm powerless. So that's great. Fine. Just don't put it in your body. Right? Problem solved. If I don't put it in my body, I don't have a problem, right? Great. Physical allergy. Problem is that I also have that obsession of the mind. And that obsession of the mind is going to tell me every time, no matter what just happened, a week or a month, a day, an hour, for me, you know, it doesn't matter, is that a drink's going to make me feel better. I need a drink. And I am restless, irritable, and discontent. And that doesn't sound that bad. But there's a volume knob on my restless, irritable, and discontent where it just goes up and up and up and up. And it's like my skin starts crawling, and it's like, I'm going to have a drink. I have to have a drink, you know? And so it's crazy. And so I think that I'm bodily and mentally different than my fellows. You know, this doesn't happen to other people that I know. So, you know, all these and many other symptoms, but it's like they cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. The phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. So, you know, that describes me. So I kind of feel like, you know, we covered that first part, right? We covered that first part. So, you know, and you know, the obsession is just like I described. So what about the unmanageability? you know, when my sponsor asked me, like, what do you know, what's unmanageability? Well, I can't stop going to jail. I can't, you know, and he's like, no. He goes, that is just the consequences of your actions. You know, and I think this is just my experience, but I think a lot of people around here think like they lost their job, they got to do it, like that's the unmanageability. And it's not. That's not what the book says. That's not what I've found to be true. Because I can have that unmanageability without alcohol. I can have that where I am stone cold, or not, I won't say sober. I'm not drinking. And for me, I'm the type of alcoholic that when I'm not drinking and I have no God and I have no program, it is much worse than when I'm drinking. Like when I got here, I said, like, I don't have an alcohol and drug problem. I have a problem, you know, I don't have a problem on them. I have a problem off them. And that is absolutely true. You know, I thought that was kind of funny when I said it, but it is absolutely true. And so if you're wondering, when you talk about this unmanageability, and by the way, also, like we talked about the powerlessness, I don't think I ever get my management job back either. Like I don't get the keys again. I don't get my badge. I've been fired. The place burnt down. I'm out. That's it, you know? And so I have turned that management as best I can. I sometimes try to take the reins, you know, over to someone else. And so if you want to know what the untreated alcoholism, or if you want to know what the unmanageability is, I'm going to read it to you right here, and it's on page 52. So page 52 talks about, you know, why shouldn't we ask ourselves, why shouldn't we apply our human problems with the same readiness to change and point of view? So here's what my problem is. This is my unmanageability. We were having trouble with personal relationships. Check. That's like a small, you know, having trouble. You know, I didn't really have any. It was all business associates. You know, really. We couldn't control our emotional natures. I'm either up or I'm all the way down. I had no control. You know, I'm all over the place, right? And this is even sober or not drinking. You know, this is you know, both times. So control our emotional natures. We are prey to misery and depression. Check, for sure. That was half the time. You know, that's why I'm putting that in my body, thinking it's going to change the way I feel. We couldn't make a living. Check. We had a feeling of uselessness. Yes, check. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Yes. Like, even though, I mean, I thought, you know, but I knew deep down, like, you're not good for anyone, you know? And wasn't that our basic solution of these bedevilment? Wasn't the basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should, and it goes on to talk about newsreels and flights and stuff like that, but really, like, it's solving those. And so when I talk about unmanageability, it's that, you know, I can't make myself happy. I can't, it's the thinking. That's the problem. It's the thinking. It's not the drinking. Of course, that's a symptom, but it's the thinking, you know. And you hear people say, I came for the drinking and I stayed for the thinking. And, you know, so you know, that's what the book tells me. That's my experience. So I don't know. You know, sometimes people get a little ruffled when, like, I say that about unmanageability, but I think that's true with what's really going on. And so when my sponsor explained that to me, and I could understand that because I couldn't do those things, and I had not drank too, and you know, just really didn't have a program. And I thought, man, that is even worse. Like, those things just really come out. And so that's my experience with step one. Super important. Something, and if you notice, step one is like, there's 12 steps, but step one is like, if you include the doctor's opinion, it's like in the page 40s. That's step one. The rest of them, you're already done at, you know, like, it's like a third of the book is step one of the steps part. And so, you know, if they spent that much time on it, and I know I spent a long time on it with my sponsor, even though it was super clear, and I'm very thankful to that sponsor who took me through the book line by line and read it to me. And we, you know, because I had sponsors before, and I don't blame them, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher's there or whatever. But like, I had some people just like give me a book, like, go home and read it. and then, you know, come back and let me know what you thought. And then I remember calling that guy. I'm like, I don't really understand how to do this. My sponsor told me how to do the steps. He showed me, this is an example. You write this, here's the column. Like, you know, it was very clear. So I had no excuse not to do what we were going to do. That's my experience. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.